Now, every journey has an end. Now, there are very few startups that just kind of keep generating revenue and they're happy with their revenues. But most startups, especially startups that have raised investor funding, will either sell themselves to another startup or a bigger company or a public company, or they will go IPO. Now, IPO stands for Initial Public Offering, and that is usually the holy grail of startups. This is when you go into a public market, you've taken your startup all the way through all the series, and now you need to go to somebody who has more money than any VC in the world. And those people are the public markets, right? So if a lot of people can put together a small amount of money, that beats what any VC could put in by him or herself. Now let's redraw our kind of table. We have, all the assets of the company. We've got this cash from our last round. So we'll just denote this as assets, right? We have some revenues, probably consistent revenues and all of that. Maybe 2 or 3 years of consistent revenues. India has some regulations. You need to be profitable for a few years before you do an IPO. You have the cash that you have left from your previous rounds and from revenues as well. And you have the different stakeholders in the company or the shareholders in the company. You have the angel, you have 2 co-founders who are pretty diluted at this point. You have the VC, and maybe if you've raised future rounds of funding, then you have more VCs. And typically what happens is a startup does not go from Series A directly to an IPO. It takes multiple rounds of funding for you to get anywhere near an IPO. But in this case, for simplicity, we're just going to assume that the startup went to IPO directly after a Series A. In reality, the Series B, the Series C look exactly like our Series A video. So just take a look at it if you need to know how things work. Now, in an IPO scenario, the minimum amount of dilution, so the minimum dilution for an IPO, wow, I spelled both things wrong. Minimum is 25% in India, right? So we need to make sure that at least 25% of the company's shares are given away. So you introduce 25% new shares and give that away. Now let's assume we think that the valuation of the company, all of this has gone from our 20 or 30 crores to 300 crores. Maybe you've got a lot of revenue, you've got 100 employees working for you, blah, blah, blah. Right? Now, say for further expansion, maybe you want to enter like a different market, you need another 100 crores of cash. Right? And you want to raise this from public markets, from a lot of different people. So we know that the pre-money valuation is, sorry, let's just write those numbers down. Investment post-money valuation. So we know that the pre-money valuation is 300 CR. We know that the investment required is 100 CR. And we know that the post-money valuation is 400 CR. So we know these values. Let's do our math again. This time we already know the stake. We do a reverse calculation. We know that the minimum dilution is 25%. So we're giving away 25%. We know that whatever number of shares are generated here, it's got to be 25%. So, of the entire cap table, which is whatever number of shares. All these people lose 25% of their shares, which is the angel goes to 4.55%. And it's the same math that we used in the previous videos. The founders dilute to about 45.45%. No space here, but whatever. The VCs go down to 25% from their old 33%. And this is what the final cap table of the company looks like. The price per share is now a whopping 181,818 point something, which is the same math that we used in the previous videos, right? Now, typically what happens is this is too high a price to have during IPO. And the reason for this is that for each individual shareholder this is going to be traded on a public stock market, right? The shareholder is not going to have enough money to buy even one share, right? And you might think this, right? You might think, how does it matter how many shares are in the company, right? Because the price, you can just buy more shares. But you cannot have 0.5 or half a share, right? And this becomes too high an entry barrier to have public investors invest. So what typically happens at this point is the number of shares in the company are beefed up. This doesn't change anybody's value or holding. Everybody is just given maybe 10 times the number of shares that they already have, and the price per share comes down so that the number of shares go up just before this round, and the price per share comes down. Right? Now, this entire process is carried out by banks, right? By investment banks, to be specific. A bunch of investment bankers will go out, take your company to different, big investors. Then they will go to the, markets and kind of put you there on the stock market for public investors to buy. And obviously, they're not going to have too high a valuation, because if you have too high a valuation, your investment, the day you start appearing on the stock market, the value of your stock will go down, especially if it's too high. So they want to see something like this, where they put you on the market, the valuation is not too high, and people keep buying so that your value goes up. And there's some metrics for this, right? Now remember, for many of these early VCs and angels and even the co-founders, this is one of the perfect places to get an exit. And this is the first time that we're talking about this word in depth. An exit or liquidity event, or just simply liquidity, is when you can actually exchange shares for money. When you go to a stock market, you're not actually investing in a company. You're buying and selling shares from other people, and the price is dependent on the last few transactions. During an exit, a co-founder or a VC could go on the market and sell some of his shares to a random person on the stock exchange. And this is exactly how an exit event happens, which is why a lot of VCs go giddy when they know a startup is going to IPO. But remember, when you invest in the IPO itself during this event, I'm not talking about after it reaches a stock exchange, before it reaches a stock exchange, you are actually investing in the company if you buy a share during the IPO. So the IPO is an event. It's an event. Don't forget about this. Right? During the event, you actually purchase shares, and the cash you put in is actually going to run the company's expenses. So if you're investing during the IPO event, you're an actual investor. But if you're buying it from a stock exchange, from other people, from the NASDAQ or whatever, or the NSE or the BSE, then you are simply a trader. Even if you're holding these shares for a long time, it might seem like you're making an investment, but that capital has not gone directly to the company, not directly at least. It might be an indirect investment, but technically you're just buying and selling shares from other people on the market. Now you might think, what do the investment bankers have to gain from this, right? Why would they put in all the effort, put a team of like 4 or 5 people to get you onto the market? Usually, investment bankers take 7% of a commission or a transaction fee on the amount raised during the IPO. So if it's, in this case, if it's a 100 crore IPO, the investment bankers make 7 crores for a couple of months of effort, which is a good deal in itself, because most IPOs happen for much, much bigger prices than 100 crores, which is why being an investment banker is a lucrative profession. My co-founder Shashank used to do this on an almost day-to-day basis until I pulled him out of his investment banking company and asked him to join Avalon, so that he can go from making this commission once in a while, or a percentage of this commission, because there's a team working on this, to being one of the co-founders and taking this early risk, right? Going through the entire process, then being some part of that journey. Now, if you're an employee, if you're a consultant, if you're an angel, you only play small roles in the life cycle of a company. But when you're a co-founder, you see the company from day one, right? And you see it all the way till you see the angel, the VC, the IPO, and so on and so forth. You have the opportunity to see it. And of course, this is all if you're lucky, because IPOs, very, very few companies actually go to an IPO. Most companies go through an acquisition. But before that, there is a more grim fate of a company, which is what happens if a company does not manage to raise a round? What happens when the company goes bankrupt? And we are going to explore that scenario in the next video.